Alright, so this is going to be part 5 to what if Asta had time magic redone. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness, 'cause right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness, that I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
Alright, so before we get started, I'd like to say a few things. First off, the finale to What If Tanjiro Learned the Breath of the Moon is up, so if you haven't watched this series, I suggest doing so. It's one of my better series. I put a lot of time and effort into it, so I hope you guys enjoy that series. Other than that, I'm also going to post a retrospective video on it and basically talk about how it was like working on those videos, editing, and everything like that. I will also be talking about cut content and everything like that. So if you're interested in that, comment down some questions you have about the series and I'll be sure to answer it in those videos. So with that being said, let's get on to the rest of the video. So in the last part, we had just gotten done with Ledros absorbing Spirit Dive Raya's form, as well as the binding magic that was used to, keep him in place. So like I said in the last part, he will be stronger than he was in canon due to who he's absorbing. Like I said before, Raya is a lot stronger due to him having the Fire Spirit, and the Fire Spirit being more mature than it was in canon, and therefore he's able to use Spirit Dive and everything like that. Now, that being said, Asta had a pretty hard time fighting Raya in general because of how their magics work. Now obviously in this fight, Asta was able to counter his curse flame magic because of his own magic and how it works. Basically, he's able to reverse the wounds and essentially not get cursed like he was before. But then again, this fight is going to be kind of tough for him because he just went and fought another Spirit Dive user, meaning that he is pretty drained at this point. Getting back to the fight, as Ledros would evaluate the situation, in an instant he would shoot Asta, seeing him as the biggest threat. Asta, having a little bit of magic still left, would use it to dodge it, but he still gets scraped by this as the beam itself was extremely fast, given that there was a lot of power behind it. Thoughts are racing in Asta's mind, trying to figure out a way to beat this guy, because remember, Asta is, nearly out of magic. This is where the Witch Queen would activate a spell. This would heal Asta a bit, as well as give him a little bit of magic. This is similar to what happened in canon, in where she unlocked his anti-magic. This gives him enough magic to use Spirit Dive again. Kronos also tells him not to use any spells directly at Ledros, as he will just absorb it. Instead, Asta needs to focus on reinforcement magic, things that will boost his physical strength, and that's what he does. Now, this fight has to be hand-to-hand combat for Asta since he can't use any spell that is projected towards Ledros, as he might absorb it. So Asta uses reinforcement magic on himself. This gives him a physical boost. He then tries to go after Ledros as Ledros shoots beams of fire at him. As Asta gets closer, this is where Ledros makes the beams more and more powerful until Asta is face to face with Ledros. As he's about to punch him in the face, Ledros seems to have a upper hand as he puts his hand in front of Asta's face about to fire. As the beam is charging up in a split second, this is where Asta pushes Ledros' hand upwards, making the beam shoot into the sky. Now keep in mind, this all happened in a matter of milliseconds. Asta does land the punch into Ledros' face, but because he had to change the direction of the beam, he wasn't able to get a solid punch. Because of this is where Ledros retaliates with a knee directly into the gut, as the punch wasn't that effective. This launches Asta into the air, and Ledros follows suit at a blinding speed. He's actually fast enough to meet Asta on the other side, and where he kicks him directly in the face. This again launches him back a few feet, and Ledros shoots out beams towards Asta's body, hitting them directly, making smoke appear from Asta. When the smoke clears, it shows Asta standing in mid-air with some visible scratches and wounds. Here is where Kronos talks to Asta. He tells him, all you have to do is just listen to what I say. And this is where Kronos teaches Asta hand-to-hand combat. Now, if you don't know, ancient Greeks are known for wrestling and boxing at their Olympics. And Kronos being a Greek god, he would know about these fighting techniques. Now, obviously, Greeks are not in Black Clover, but Kronos being based off the Greek Titan would already know this. So now the main objective is for Asta to get close so he could actually hit Ledros, as obviously Ledros has many ranged attacks. And because Asta can't use any projectile type magic, because that could just be absorbed by Ledros, it's really his only option. So Asta does get in close because he's already naturally fast due to his type of magic. So when he does actually get close, this is where Kronos would start teaching Asta. He would teach him how to, well, box. And because Asta and Kronos are essentially one at this point because of the spirit dive, he would have some influence over his body. Not entirely so, as obviously Asta is in charge, but he could lead him in certain directions. Because of this, he perfects his form whenever it's slightly off or anything like that. Asta would try to go for a punch to the face, and Ledros would block this. But this wasn't really the attack. Instead, Asta was actually going for a hit to his liver. So this would be an extremely powerful left hook. Now, if you don't know why it's, bad to be punched in the liver, just think about it for a second. Your liver takes up a lot of space in that area, and there's so many blood vessels there that it's a very vulnerable spot. Just one hit from this can make you lose your breath. So Asta does that, and this causes Ledros to cough up a bit of blood because, like I said before, there's a lot of blood vessels located in your liver. After this, Ledros feels a moment of breathlessness and his legs feel like they're gonna collapse, but then he snaps from the pain, seeing that Asta's gonna hit him again. Asta then tries to perform a few jabs towards Ledros. Ledros quickly blocks them. Keep in mind, this is all happening within moments of each other. This is where Ledros tries to retaliate by punching back Asta, but Asta slips through his punch, and when it looks like he's about to do an uppercut, this is where Ledros unleashes a large amount of magic, and because he absorbed the fire spirit, there is just this blazing amount of heat just coming out of him. Being in his spirit form does heal some of the wounds, but because it requires magic to do so, he doesn't completely heal everything because he doesn't want to waste any magic that he doesn't need to. So, some wounds and burns are still left, although the major ones are taken care of. So, dusting himself off, Asta has to get close up with Ledros once again. And at this point, Ledros is sweating and he is very much struggling to keep conscious because that liver punch really did hurt him. And some of you might not understand the severity of a liver punch. It could literally knock people out just with a good hit. So when Asta gets close, he goes for another punch, but Ledros catches his hand. Then he tries to hit Ledros with his other hand, but again, it also gets caught. This is where Asta, thinking on his feet, headbutts Ledros, hitting his crystal that's in his forehead that was controlling him this entire time. With this, Ledros gets knocked out, and he is basically no longer under mind control from the Diamond Kingdom. They all celebrate after the big win, but it's short-lived. This is where the Witch Queen would try to take over Asta so that she could have a pawn that has time magic, just like how she would try to do in canon with his anti-magic. The difference here, though, is that I don't think it would work due to the spirit that Asta has. Now, we know that the Witch Queen has blood magic, and obviously the spirits don't have blood. And since he's still in his spirit form, Kronos would have some influence over Asta, like I said before. The Witch Queen, seeing that it's not working, would try to sail off the time spirit Kronos. Here, obviously, seeing that Asta might fail and might even kill one of the other members, This would push Vanessa over the edge and she would learn a new spell. Obviously, this being the Red String of Fate. Because of this new spell, it'd be easy for Asta to get out of her control just by having the cat touch him once, and this is where Kronos would take full control over Asta. Asta's eyes would be glowing at this point as to signify that he is no longer in control. He would then look at the Witch Queen and then start to speak, although his voice is not the same, it's slightly different. He would say, "You there, do not get in the way of a god. You've lived long enough to see how this works out. For your own sake, back down, unless you wish to be struck by divine punishment." The Witch Queen would look rather annoyed. Then she would look at Vanessa, unlocking the power that she knew she had, fate manipulation. But she can't control it, like she was planning to do all those years ago. Reevaluating the situation, she would see no way of really winning unscathed. And in the end, it would be pointless as she would not be able to get either the time spirit or the fate manipulation on her side. So she retreats. Once everything was done and they could actually celebrate, this is where Ledros would wake up again, this time no longer evil. And he would talk to Mars, and this is where they would explain the influence that the Diamond Kingdom had on their psyche. And during all this, Raya would have escaped due to the chaos happening around him, and no one really being able to stop him. That being said, I think Ledros would be a bit stronger than he was in canon, since he wasn't drained of his magic like he was in canon, so he'd still have that fire spirit magic within him, although not as much as it was at the beginning, obviously. So after all this, Asta would collapse due to the exhaustion he would be feeling after having to fight two really strong opponents. Once he wakes up, he would be in the Black Bull's hideout, and this is where he would recover from all damages. Now, we could skip a few days or weeks to the Star Festival. This is the festival in where the Wizard King announces who has gotten the most golden stars during the year. So I don't think it'd be much different than it was in canon, as Asta would be doing basically the same stuff, except he would be killing a few people. As dark as that might sound, these people were threats to the kingdom, and therefore Asta would most likely get rewarded for it. Now, would it be enough to overlap the Golden Dawn? Now, originally the Golden Dawn had 125 by the Star Festival, and the Black Bulls had 101. So, like I said before, would it be enough? Well, I don't think so. I think in this one, he would still not overlap the Golden Dawn, although it'd be a lot closer. I think that at the end of it, the Black Bulls would have around 110 stars, while the Golden Dawn would still have the same amount, that being 125. Now, everything that would happen during the Star Festival would happen, so Asta would heal both Kanano and her brother, essentially giving their dreams back to them. Now, this is where I'm going to end the video. I know it's short, but with the holidays coming up really soon, and just me having bad timing with the finale video that I was working so long on, I really haven't had much time to do stuff. So, with that being said, we gotta thank the patrons over on Patreon, and if you want to join them, the link will be in the description. My videos uploaded there earlier, and you have a chance of getting a drawing from me. So with that being said, let's actually get into it. So in our gold tier, we have Nippy Director, Kenny, and Dwayne Fenn. In our platinum tier, we have Lyco. So if you want to join them, like I said before, it'll be in the description. Or you can go to patreon.com/ComicSansTheMan. There, like I said before, you get my videos early, and you have a chance to get a drawing from me. With that being said, this is going to be the video. So yeah.